your time to ask those questions. And also, if you want to hand me a card, a note card, that's fine too.
Would you be able to be a panelist? Sure. Because we need someone to address the legislature. Yes. So, there's just a couple more things I'd like to maybe say before we toss it out.
Sure. Here's what I'm going to do. Because we did have 2 or 3 absences, some vital absences here. I know I'm supposed to moderate, but I feel like a comedian. We're talking about absences once again. Oh my goodness. Okay. But let me introduce to you. Her name is Heather Fazio, and she is the executive director for Texans for Accountable Government. And she was one of the many people who helped kind of put this event together. So Heather is right here. And Katherine, did you want to do an introduction, or how do you want to bring her in the mix?
Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for making this happen. Heather has worked tirelessly over the last couple of months to bring everything together and actually make this occur. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of background on where this battle has gone so far. We've kind of given you the downsides of why it's a bad idea, but now I want to talk to you about the fight that's been waged so far. I made phone calls to all of the members of the board before the school year actually began. I feel like I want this like right up here. So I made phone calls to all members of the board. They have their home numbers posted on the website. I don't encourage that you take advantage of that. And I mean that sincerely. I think that would probably not be a good idea. But I actually did call them all at home and had a conversation with virtually every single one of them in anticipation of the school year starting, and said, I have some real concerns, and have you addressed, do you have fair information practices? I mean, there's a whole host of things that privacy advocates and people who do this professionally, there's a checklist that they go through. Anytime you're collecting personally identifiable information about individuals, especially children, there are some pretty high standards that the privacy community has developed. They seem to kind of be clueless about any of that, so that they didn't have any of that put together. I asked them if they had community forums, if they'd held an event like this where people could come out and speak. They said, no, we put it on our website, so everybody already knows. And essentially, we're done. Nothing more to say. Goodbye. Thank you. So Katie DeOyos, who, if you could stand up, Katie, she's in the back of the room here. There's Katie. Katie actually flew down here and helped the Hernandez family, Steve and Andrea Hernandez, who are also here. They contacted and reached out to us because Katie and I have been doing some radio on this topic, and Steve and his daughter Andrea heard about that. Heard us, reached out, contacted us, and then said that Andrea didn't want to be a part of it. I know that there are other families that also did not want to be a part of it. So we were starting to sense that the community wanted some help in figuring out how to fight it. So Katie flew down from Dallas and helped them out on the very first day of school. We had a pretty good turnout with people in media and opposition and protest signs and everything else, just bringing it to kids' awareness. Andrea then opted out, and if people want kind of the rundown on that story, Steve Hernandez. Andrea, can you stand up or wave your hand so we can applaud you? Andrea's the real heroine, I think, in all of this. 15-year-old Andrea Hernandez, honor student here, I think has just been an extraordinary example to young people all around the country, and also to your peers at your school. Andrea has deeply held religious convictions and believes that this technology, which emits a unique ID number and is needed to get lunch in the lunch line and is needed to actually attend the school, that has some pretty serious biblical prohibitions against using a number in that way, and that would condition kids to accept the mark of the beast. So Andrea then took that battle. Maybe we can get Andrea up here on the panel if she'd be willing. Andrea, would you be willing to come up on the panel? Yes. So Andrea essentially told the school that she wasn't going to wear this ID badge, and they fought that in the courts. The Rutherford Institute stepped in. They're kind of like the ACLU. They stepped in with their attorneys pro bono and represented Andrea's case. And after going back and forth with the courts and appeals and several other things, she was expelled from John Jay High School on January 18th. I think I've got the date right. It's not right. So she was actually told that she was not welcome back on her own school campus unless she was willing to wear this ID badge. And Andrea, I think, deserves all of our, well, maybe another round of applause because she said, heck no, not gonna do it. So during that period of time, those of us who would have fought it sort of on the public side, going out there with picket signs, protest signs, or media, or what have you, were kind of pulling back and staying in the background because we wanted to allow the attorneys to make their case. And if you know lawyers, they've got their very specific way to do things, and they don't really want you messing with that and possibly messing up their plans. When that didn't work, though, that was when Heather and I said, you know what, we're going to have to do something ourselves. And that's how this community forum came about. I want you to know, though, that this community forum is just the beginning as far as I'm concerned, because, yeah. So, you know, you let the courts do their thing, and when that doesn't work, then you try other strategies. So there are two other approaches right now that I think both of which hold a lot of promise. One of them, and I'm going to let Heather speak to this, is a bill that's been introduced in the Texas state legislature, in actually both houses of your legislature, that would make it a crime for a school to issue this kind of ID badge onto kids. So we need support to get that legislation passed during this legislative session, which I guess will be ending in May. So there's a window of opportunity there. And I certainly, I will let Heather address that aspect of it. And then on the other side, I just flew on Friday to Washington, D.C. I've been traveling like a mad woman here. But I flew into D.C. on Friday, and I met with the Privacy Coalition at EPIC. That's the Electronic Privacy Information Center. EPIC, if you're not familiar with their work, is a very powerful Washington-based pro-privacy lobbying organization. And their privacy coalition meets once a month, and it is members of every privacy group, essentially, that, you know, in the country, and many international ones as well. So it's EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, there's EPIC, there's the ACLU, there's Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, Privacy International, they're all there. And we were able, before the school year started, we have a coalition paper that they all signed on to, but I kind of reinvigorated them a little bit on Friday and said, hey, we need you to write letters in support of the legislation. We need you to speak to the media. We need you to really roll up your sleeves and get involved and begin issuing press releases of your own and start saying it is not just a handful of people who oppose this, but it is civil libertarians and privacy experts around the country and around the world who strongly oppose this. So I got an absolute thumbs up from every single person in the room. We had people teleconferencing in, and they all gave us the thumbs up. So they're on the case too.
And let me just reiterate, we're longest introduction ever, right? But a good one. What we're doing, and it should be noted, I know we've got a couple members of the media. As you hear my voice, keep in mind, this is an issue, again, I'm still moderator, but this is an issue where we're going so far that we had someone just came up to me and said they had a Marx a lot, and they're going to write Andrea Hernandez's name, and she's filling in. So, I mean, this is the way that the game is going at this point. This is the cards that have been dealt. It's going to be, I think it's very interesting that there were a few no-shows. So Andrea Hernandez is now officially here because, you know, we tried to keep it balanced, but now Andrea will help us keep it balanced. Thank you, Andrea Hernandez. And I want to point out, as we get closer to having Katherine, Heather, thank you so much. As we get closer to having Heather talk to us about Texans for Accountable Government, those folks who also helped organize this, I want to reiterate, is there anything that's standing out right now in your mind? And don't be shy, because that's not what these people are about. Don't be shy. Is there anything right now that's standing out in your mind where you go, okay, they said this or they said that and I'm not clear on what's going on? Does anyone have anything to say to Northside Independent School District, or a question for these people here. Anybody that would like to just come up with me and ask a quick question? Yeah. Yeah, come on over here and tell me your name and get your question or your thought out.
First things, my name is Chris Anderson, and you were talking, Katherine, you were talking about the RFID chips were exhibiting 2,000 microvolts.
That wasn't me.
Who said that? Was that you? 2,000 microvolts? All right, no, you were talking about 0.16 microwatts.
Right.
But I heard someone talking about the RFID tags themselves were basically putting out 2,000 microwatts, which is, as opposed to the 0.16 microwatt, a whole lot more.
Right. So the
Which is not just multiple times, but thousands of multiple times. Did anyone else hear the 2,000 microwatts?
no,
the smart
I was
meters
referring
also
to these
themselves.
RFID.
The RFID chips.
So their own documentation shows about a microwatt. So my calculations, given the data that they had in their specs, was 0.16 microwatts per centimeter squared, and that's
Right, I
pretty
know what
high.
you're talking
Per
about.
centimeter,
I'm an
it's
RF
this big.
engineer.
It's this big. That's
Yeah, I
pretty
know.
strong.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just heard that 2,000, which is 2 milliwatts, which is a whole lot more. By the way, your average phone puts out almost a watt.
But think of power density. It's a
Yeah,
different.
And in here, I have
A watt is different than the emission that's
I
happening, right?
understand that.
Right.
But on the emission point of it, we have more power here on our hip. We have more power here on our hip than the cell phone towers actually do, because the density is right here.
Well, I would disagree with that. Let me give you the data. So it depends on your phone. If you have, let's say, an iPhone puts out over 2,000 microwatts per meter squared. Your cell phone towers, depending how close you are, if you're 100 feet from your cell phone tower, you can be 39,000 microwatts per meter squared. So I'm going to tell you, your cell phone towers, depending on how close you are putting out more than your cell phone.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I understand that, but it's not, but depending on how close we are, this is actually more power. By the way, thank you, Andrea.
Part of the motto of Texans for Accountable Government is speaking on a human level and connecting with these people about the precedent that we're setting by allowing the abuse of this technology to be used in our schools. So they need to hear from you and start talking with your neighbors about, about this issue, because most people aren't talking about it. Talk about what you've learned today.